right, when I was reading the Kaizen approach or whatever,
Oh yeah.
right? It was just like, that's how I approached all of my work throughout my whole life, right? Each day, how can I make this better? Right. I mean, better service, better. And, I mean, people really appreciated that. Right. And it was also gave me a motivation. I mean, there was always little tweaks. So, yeah.
So then let's just start with the free write here. And I am going to give us two. I like the beyond work
Uh-huh.
point, and I like the idea of real work. So if we kind of identify, I'm just curious about work that is beyond the work that we would think about as work. I don't know if work is still the right word for that, if that is play. But I'm
Yeah.
really interested in where this play work comes together.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're moving is this idea of synchronicity or serendipity. So I'm also curious what you think about that, if you believe in synchronicity or serendipity. Um,
It's happening all the time.
yes,
Isn't it?
I think so. But it's also, I mean, there's different ways of understanding it. So we're going to let's go for about 10 minutes here. What happened this week that's significant? So anything that we want to check in with ourselves, so we kind of check in. And then any other reflections on work, beyond work, or synchronicity. As we're kind of moving more into like how we might continue to deepen the journeys that we've already gone on so far in the last 2 weeks. Onward, in the pages. Here we go.
See you in a few.
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and finish up what we're writing. I'm curious what happened this week for people, and if it's similar to me, since you guys are in different places than I am.
The one thing that really kind of highlighted for me was the interesting thing in doing these dashboards. The one that the warning light came on for was my love meter. So even though I feel I have some quality relationships that give me an abundance of love, I have not been able to receive it in a way that's filled me up. So I know that I'm loved, like consciously, but emotionally, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling the depth of connection that I felt before COVID when I was getting hugs and, doing jujitsu. So, and that has to do with touch. It really does. It has to do with touch. But in thinking about this problem, it opened up a really interesting opportunity for me. So I thought about, why not test it? Why not take these, Design Your Life, books guide to take action, find a way to do something about it. And so I'm doing a test case where I'm going to try out a love workshop where it's going to be immersive. I'm going to use the 36 questions that was published in the New York Times on developing intimacy and love. So the first segment is going to be like dyads, where you talk about, connection, and you go through those 36 questions. Then I'm going to do it at a spa so that it involves touch. So then you go through a treatment and you get your massage done. And then you come back and we do a group facilitation where we talk about how to increase connection in groups through listening and some of the things we've actually talked about here in this group. And then you go out and you have your next treatment. And then we come back for a third thing, which is how to connect deeper with ourselves, and from that connect to the exterior world. So that's like, having a deeper connection with who we are and how do we want to influence the world from a place of integrity, ethics, and persuasiveness. And then I can talk about, my master's in public administration on, actually creating policy change, and my experience in marketing on how to get good ideas out to the world through social media, writing, whatever. So, and then you can have another treatment if you want, or we can all go and have dinner and just chill. So it's an immersive day, because that's my best learning style. And so I tested this idea yesterday with a group of people that came over for lunch. And the only kind of feedback I got was, well, have you thought about doing it here? Not like it's not a good idea. It was like, maybe if you did it here, it'd be better. I'm like, oh, okay, people are liking this. All right. So that was a real exciting kind of insight from just doing that dashboard exercise. So there you go. That's where my week was.
That's great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That previews a lot of there's a connection and collaborating piece of this workshop that we normally do toward the end. And I'm really wondering if that's misplaced, because I do think it almost seems like thinking about the connections that we have, I had it in my head where it's like, this is like you do this work and then you go out and then you kind of like begin thinking about how it can connect with other people, and you kind of expand outward as the class is ending. But I don't know if that's right. I almost feel like, and so I had a meeting with a teacher in the Netherlands who runs Meta Magic. It's like she's into gamifying education and doing these cool, like, so we're thinking about choose your own adventure quests where you're going like different directions. So maybe like this week, maybe this is like connecting, collaborating is actually like the main thing. Like that's actually where it should go. So instead of waiting to week 6 for this connecting thing, maybe that's just like where you are. So yeah, it's just interesting. It's interesting to see how you have like a path that you're taking that is connecting with what we're doing 3 weeks from now. And I feel like I'd like to design the workshop so that you can like, it can be like holographic. So if you're like, all of a sudden, if week 6 comes out in week 3, then who am I to say that like the order that I thought of it before in my head is actually the best order for Brian or for anybody. So that's cool, man. I don't know, the whole thing with touch and connection, and I love the 36 questions that make you fall in love with anyone. Do you know that, Mom?
No, I don't.
It's really,
I should check that out.
It's a fun list. There's a New York Times piece on it that I think I can look it up too and send it to the group. But I give that actually to my comp students as well. It's really great.
Mm-hmm.
Just increasing vulnerability, increasing intimacy with questions.
Yeah, and the event would be done in bathrobes. So that's another kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's a 1-day retreat.
Yeah, everybody's been in their bathrobes with COVID anyway.
Yeah.
So they can come with their regular dress.
I also really like that you're doing
exactly.
action too. Like you're building something. That's amazing.
Keep it relaxed. Yeah. Very cool. How big is the classes?
I'm thinking about 10 people.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So keep it small.
Yeah.
So you can have real intimacy.
Right. Excellent.
Do you consider it to be work to build this love workshop?
No, this is fun. This is, well, in the reflecting today, so work is, like I'm thinking work is a little bit of an outdated term. Work is that trading time for dollars concept. I mean, that's what it's closest to, unless you've done some real thinking and evaluating. And I think the alternative to work is what I call wealth creation, which is focusing on investing your time in a way where your ROI, your return on investment, is joy, it's fulfillment, it's meaning, it's all of those things. So by doing this kind of work to create a workshop, even though it might fiscally reward me, especially eventually, it will also emotionally reward me. It will physically touch reward me. It will creatively reward me. It will socially. I mean, there's so many levels that this one investment can have a return for. And the nice thing about when you're investing in this kind of wealth is that it doesn't just come back to you. It truly adds value that is multiplicative in that other people experience growth and wealth from that. Like I wouldn't want anyone to pay for less than what they get. I want, if you're giving money to something, I want you to get so much more out of it than you put into it. Like whatever dollar denomination that you invest into something, you should be getting 2x that or more, in my opinion, for, value. Or why are you doing it? Like I spent $30 on breakfast today. Why? Because it was on the beach. It was
delightful.
Good food. It was, they're playing good
multiplicative
music. And I'm like, this is a ridiculous amount to spend on breakfast, but I'm only eating one meal today. So why not make it worthwhile? So I'm going into a, at least a 20-hour fast now.
Oh, yeah. Well,
so
that's
that
good
I
for
can,
you.
Just enhance my health. But why not make that one meal worth it? So, there you go.
So you've got
and
the fast
walk there and the walk
starting
back.
to happen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Mom, I mean, I'm glad you answered. That's exactly it's kind of where we're going here. But yeah.
Right.
Mom?
Yeah. Right. Focusing, I guess, still focusing on energy and most of it is about love under your condition, under your control, the love, but it's an energy type of thing that it's not done with questions or the mind. It's done with increasing the energy that's flowing through you and this light. But it is from the heart. I mean, feeling all of this great love from the heart. And just so this week, as far as my conversations, it's sort of switched more to where I wanted to go. And so it was, just questioning the universe on where spirits existed, whether the chair that I sat on had a spirit. Yes. Okay. Well, then I'm going to converse with you for a bit. And, and then, and then it was like, okay, well, then I need to go, the metaphysical thing on, well, do words have spirits? And so that's where I really dived into that, asking a whole bunch, because yes, and then just diving into that and exploring that. I think that could just go on and on and on, but I'm there with the words for a bit, because it's interesting. It's very interesting on mediums, on when words are spoken, written, sung, on media. They have different energies. And so I'm exploring that. And then, right, and it seems like everything was very, the universe was very much, any kind of thought, it was the synchronicity. I was thinking about our dog, thinking, oh, he would really like a ball. He likes to find balls. He likes to find balls instead of you giving them to him, so I was like, well, maybe I can plant it. And no, he's got to find it. And, the next day he found one at the river, So, I mean, the universe provided there. And then this morning, it was just like, I was just sort of, trying to, I was just like, I need more information about this particular thing, because I hadn't heard that kind of description of the types of levels, energy levels from people that I really respected. I hadn't heard them talk about it. And I was just like, I'm not sure that there's substance there. And then immediately it was just like, someone shared a video with me of a good friend talking about exactly what I was wondering, whether it was made up, whether it was intellectual on one end, but it actually was, within their belief system as well. So, a lot of times when people are sharing knowledge, I'm not really quite sure whether it's coming from them or what the source is. It doesn't really matter what the source is, but sometimes it does sort of add to the the realness of what it is, so I mean, so that's about it, I think. Yeah. But there's but the journaling has gone down to only 2.5 pages average. I need to kick that back up to 3. Yeah, it's very easy to reduce your pages, and then as soon as you do that, you get into that pattern pretty quick. And there's a lot that comes up in those pages, and I find them very valuable. So, yeah, but I did notice that they started to go back.
And still every day on the pages?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I missed 2 days again, day and a half. I did one later on though, so I missed one day officially, but otherwise. Are you writing every day, Brian?
Yes, but unfortunately, some of those days I'm doing it for the work.
Well, yeah, they blend together. They do blend. My conversation with words was in my morning notes. I mean, all of a sudden it was just like, hey.
Yeah.
And those were the most, and in fact, as soon as I had those, I was like, oh, I've got to share this with Sean. I mean, and then I'm like,
yeah.
And this week it was like, don't share your notes, and I'm like, okay. So, yeah.
When you said synchronicity, talking about your dog, I had a weird experience this week, and but for you, it will probably sound very normal.
Oh, no.
I was getting lunch, and I was talking about health, and the parting comment was, "You should be my coach." And I said, "Absolutely, I already am." And then on the way home or sometime later, I got a weird email that said, my birth mom has signed up for my course. And I'm like, she must have found some weird thing where I was just doing something kind of off the cuff. And like a year ago, I created a website, and I was like, just as a holding pattern, had like this, you know, like it was guiding you through all these things. It said, set up your business. So I'm like, okay, why not? Coaching business, you know, just submit your email for, coaching. And so my birth mom submitted, filled out the form and submitted it for coaching. So we connected this weekend on that. But
that's very cool. That's perfect.
Two people in a span of 40 to me, and that tells me that something is going right. So when I have that level of synchronicity in my life, it's like, I love it because it's kind of a confirmation that the things that I'm doing are happening. So when your dog found the ball, in some ways, how I would interpret that was, there's something going on in your life, maybe with the relationship with your dog, or maybe what that energy means, that is on point, that is guiding you in that right direction. So how do we listen and become aware of those symbols that are, I love your use of energy, because I don't use those words, but I feel it. So when I heard that the second time, I was like, okay, this is a validation of this process that I'm on. So
right, and it's also a matter of asking too, right?
Ooh, I don't do that enough. How do you ask? Guide me.
Oh, just say, oh, this would be really cool. I mean, well, you can't be really controlling on exactly the how it will be materialized, right? The universe knows how to do that much better than you do. Right.
Which is how I'm here.
Right.
Exactly.
And
I didn't create this. It was created.
Right.
I just said yes.
And even in the journaling, you can, and I think it's really powerful when you understand what your needs are, it's sort of, but not be real specific about it. And then it just sort of flows into that, without, it's letting go, right, of, the controlling, but yet also being open to just asking, because the universe provides. It's a very nurturing, and it's always there. I mean, and it's, we're not used to asking,
I wonder, I feel like in my experience too, when there's like love behind the ask, like when I'm like, even if it's for myself, but I'm really it's like the intention, I think the intention matters. So when you really want this to be as good as you can.
Right. Just dropped it. Right. And it is the intention. Right. I love Yeti, and I wanted him to have a ball.
That's right.
Because I knew that he would be happy. And also, wanting for someone else to, as far as with love, and it is the intent. And with words, it is the intent does drive that energy. That's with those words. And
it's so interesting, because the intent, and I'll just use that to segue into what I actually think that's a really interesting way that clarifies what I was thinking about. And I have, I found this quote from Khalil Gibran that says, work is love made visible. And this idea of an autotelic, so it's like the telos is the end of something, from, and this autotelic means where the end of the activity
Mm-hmm.
is inside the activity. So you're not doing it for something else, you're doing it for itself. So this is like play. When I'm thinking about the difference between work and play, work is doing, I started thinking work is about something you do for something else. Like, you know, Brian said, trading your time for dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And then play is something you do for itself.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, you know, interestingly, there's a sense of work that's just it's movement. It's energy that moves.
Mm-hmm.
So like in physics, the work is the amount of energy required to move an object.
Right. Hi, Brian.
So I'm kind of going on the idea of intent. And then for me, my check-in for the week or my share is I looked at the difference between work and play and was thinking about that. And then I was thinking about intention and then the goals or purposes of both of those. That like the goal of work is usually to exchange something for something else, where the goal of play is to do the thing for the thing itself. And so this word autotelic is an autotelic culture. The teleology is like the study of the end, or the telos is the end of something. So it's a function or a purpose.
Right.
An auto, you know, this word is just really interesting to me, and it wants to be spoken in the Zoom chat again, so I'm going to put it in there. Actually, it wants to be in there 3 times. Okay, then there you go. Is something for its own sake. So it's interesting for me where I came up with where I landed this week is that I think a lot of the most important work I do is I do it in the spirit of play, which I said in the earlier workshop, and that seems like it continues to be true. But what was interesting to me is I revisited this book, The Gift, which is amazing. And I don't know if you've read this one, Mom. It's the subtitle is Imagination and the Erotic Life of Property.
Mm-hmm.
And by erotic, he's not necessarily meaning sexual. It's by Lewis Hyde, The Gift. This book is amazing for art. But he basically says, and so when I asked like, what is life for and what is work for, I got on my pages that life is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for us to enjoy and appreciate and participate in.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been given this gift of existence. And our work, if you will, is to give back to the gift. So there's this reciprocal, it's interesting, like in the setup that you had, Brian, a touching and being touched, an asking and listening, a breathing, an in and out, a day and a night. And so I'm thinking like, okay, well, life is this process of give and take.
Mm-hmm.
We're in these ecosystems and social ecosystems that are giving and taking. My work is to give gifts, to serve. So whenever I lose track and my work becomes building a business, or it becomes expanding the students, or it becomes revising the website, all those things are actually really important, but it depends. This brings me back to the intention. Why am I doing those things? Because I want to perpetually play? Because that's fun. And that's why we're doing this in the first place. Or because this weird like capitalistic goal is in there, because I exist in this culture that I'm like, oh, I could retire early, and how do you want to scale this thing, and how's it, you know what I mean? Like these kind of gross cultural ideas that, you know, you've kind of talked about before, Brian. So I don't know, for me, it really came in that it's just generosity. It's like, it's a gift. And this idea of like moving, and that's why I really like your idea, Mom. I think I'm gonna actually continue to.
I was exploring conscious and unconscious intent in my morning notes. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, because that actually came up in my discussion with words. That there is unconscious intent that I hadn't really thought about.
And yet, can we train that?
Well, you need to be aware of it at least. I think it's the conscious intent that we need to be more aware of and direct. And I mean, have that you want to live from a certain perspective, and choose that and choose. But
No, I think that's, I mean, and I do feel like just this idea, I remember we were talking before, maybe it was before the workshop started, about effortless action, just acting without effort, and that Taoist ideal. And this idea of like using your head in service of your heart, where your heart is actually like the conscious driver and the thinking that you're doing is in service to that. And I had the other note I pulled is the dangers of overthinking and the dangers of overworking, which Annie Dillard had a thing, or Anne Lamott had a thing where she took the 20 signs that you may be an alcoholic and put it with thinking. So you may be over, have you ever lost work because of thinking? Have you ever lost sleep because of thinking? Have you ever, it's an interesting list. It's like, oh, wow. So thinking actually can be really harmful for you if you do it too much, right? Or if you do it in a way that's not grounded. And I know for me, it's almost like, Brian, the guy I play music with, we have a thing with music that if you're thinking, you're stinking. And the whole, like the constant checking in of being able, because we do need to think, but I think we need to do it in service. So that for me is my big takeaway, that like, what the real work you have to do is just be more generous, be more present, like work on, and that's kind of the metaphor for this whole paradigm, this class. Participate in the gift. I mean, I'm working on myself, so that's the project. That worksmanship is like, how can I move myself to clarify my conscious intent, to use that language, which I really like, because then it just becomes like more full of love and there's more joy, there's more energy. And so that is a really good transition to where we're going this next week is, and I can pull it up, but the whole idea of attention and energy, of where we put our attention. So what are we putting our attention onto, and how can we train our attention to be more open, if we want to be more open to synchronicity and serendipity? So I published a piece about like receptivity being like the foundational thing. So being open to experiences, and then paying attention to where those experiences might happen, and then using those experiences to make meaning. So receptivity, experience, meaning is from the science of synchronicity from a psychological standpoint. You're receptive, so it's REM, receptive, experience, and then meaning making. So, I mean, that's kind of, I don't know what, I was talking for a while. I'm curious if you had any other responses to that.
Seems a bit complex.
The unconscious
That's funny.
Yeah, the unconscious intent that we were talking about, as getting to know that, I find that at this point in my life, it's about finding something that's a little bit different than what everyone else seems to be saying. And I don't like the implication that we humans are wrong, that just the way we are, there's something broken or incomplete about that. And take the focus of control away from, kind of self-blame, and instead invest that locus of control into a space of creative connection, and realizing that we can be resourceful. We can be like our unconscious negativity bias, the way that we orient towards negativity and things like that. It's in our biology, but there is a way to transcend that. And I think that synchronicity is a hint on how to do that. I think that's a part of the power when you pay attention to synchronicity, when you're receptive to what's going on or aware of what's going on in your environment, and you deeply appreciate it, which is, I think, experience on steroids. It's actually being emotionally, mentally, and physically engaged in something in flow. And when you're there, it doesn't mean anything, but it's really easy for the mind to tell a story about it.
I
When
like
you're in
that.
flow,
I like that because you're
after the flow,
receptive.
it's
Yeah.
very easy for our minds to, yeah.
Right. Because the meaning probably is going to, I mean, it's being receptive to the experience, period. And not trying to work it too much and put meaning into it. Right?
Yeah, and I think it's, I mean, with the with the meaning making, then in the sense, it's not necessarily. Would you? This is a really cool question. So if we have all these experiences happening all the time,
Mm-hmm.
so I guess do you think everything is synchronicity? So you're gonna get up from your computer.
It can be.
You're gonna open the door and you're gonna go into the other room, and all along the while, there's gonna be all these things that are happening. But
No, I
something.
don't think it's,
But then something happens. So when you in your mind say, well, this thing is different than these other things, I'm paying attention to this. That's what they mean by meaning making. So it's identifying that this has significance. So when you said, Mom, about conscious and unconscious intent, that stood out to me.
Echo in eternity.
Yes, it was like boom, oh, something's here.
Right.
And I don't think we need to think about it. It's not necessarily like, oh, I wonder what that means, but paying attention to being like, oh, there's something there.
Well, you can pay attention to the fact that you're walking through the doorway and going into another energy. I mean, you can really, when you're minute to minute kind of deal. But I'm not sure. Right.
I just love that you're questioning the meaning making part of this by saying that it's complicated, because I think, I don't think it should be complicated, because I do think if it takes us out of the mystery, if I make meaning in a way that closes me off to the future of all these things continuing to happen, we're like, oh, I know what this means.
That's
right. It's like, no, I don't know. Maybe you want to back off and just stay in the flow of these things that are happening.
Right, that's the receptive part. And I keep on, and that's the loving part too. And it is, I think we are battling against, in some respects, the culture of where we've grown up.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And the logical, the thinking.
Yes. Figuring it out, having the answers. What do you mean you don't know what you're doing?
Oh, yeah, that's
right.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah.
And I think young people they're just very burdened by that. They're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And I should have it figured out. And I'm like, they're there. No, you shouldn't.
No, right. Right.
But I don't like the word battle there. I think, I don't know what other verb to use, but I don't think we're fighting it. Or I don't want to say that we're fighting it. Do you think we're fighting it?
Fighting what?
The cultural, like these cultural pressures, or the expectations to get logically things figured out. You said that it is kind of a battle to like.
Did I say battle?
You did.
Oh.
I think in the beginning.
It's okay.
Yes,
it's fine.
Yeah.
No, I think Brian's with you. It is a kind of battle.
Yeah. because you're in the quicksand. You're in the gelatin that's, you know, like you're put into a mold that you're expected to fit into, and you need to get out of it. You need to break through it. You need to cut through. You know, it's like you're not, you know, is the water wet? You know, if you're a fish, you know, how's the water? You know, what's water?
Right.
You know, if you're not aware of what you're in, yeah, maybe fighting is a good way to get started. It's not the ultimate way to live. There is something that you can evolve into to embrace and enjoy the water we're surrounded by. So I see where you're going, Sean. I mean, I value, you know, yes, absolutely. Let's find a way to get beyond the battling it. However, let's acknowledge that sometimes fighting is a great start. Anger is a great way to get enough emotion to create motion. So I love being angry because I know that I need it to get unstuck because I've been in the quicksand. So I need to, you know, I don't want to flail and go deeper, but I want to find a way to create progress that's healthy. And there are better emotions than anger. There's love, there's compassion. I'd love to be walking in love. However, I need to be kind of reality check. I'm not there all the time. You know, there's sometimes when I get an assignment for work that pisses me off because I want to be doing my thing. I don't want to be doing their thing. You know, I want to be doing me. But it's a trade-off. I like that. I like the paycheck. So yeah, I'll do your thing. I'll just barely enough so that I can go back to doing my thing.
So in Quechua, there's a word that and I'll have to dig that word up, but a word that means battle and dance.
Ooh, battle dance.
And it's how you choose to move with opposite energies, right? You know, I mean, you can, and it's all about bringing together the left and the right, and and it is flowing, and it's your choice on whether you feel it as a battle or a dance, right?
Battle dance. That's way better. I'm driving with battle dance.
Okay.
And to Brian's point, I mean, all these different things that are arising, we're paying attention to them. Oh, sorry, Mama.
Yeah, no. It's but even with work, if you manage to bring in your, you know, the energy of what you like when you are doing the work.
That's it.
It, you know, I mean, that's making it work. I mean, you know, as far as
that's what I'm. So then the energy also of like, I have these 80 student essays to grade.
Right.
How can I do that in a way that's generous to myself and honoring the gift of the ability to do it? So generous to my buyer, to the client, to myself, to my life path. So instead of just like, oh, I'm just grading these essays, like, no, this is an exercise in generosity of a certain kind of a creative intention that is playful and enriching in my relationship gauge. Oh, and I'm also going to do it in a way that every 20 minutes I'm going to get up and move so I can take care of my health gauge. Yeah, I mean, I just really wary of like my, you know, I write so much, I'm like trying to turn it into something. And I think it's just really helpful for me to hear that perpetual receptivity to not like, so I appreciate like not like making meanings like, oh, I know what this is. It's like, no, you don't. You still don't. Like you're still like figuring it out. It's still unfolding. So there is an image that came up. Please, Brian.
How do you get into the appreciative mindset? So, you know, here's a task that is not an obvious 10 for you, right? It may be a 3 or a 4 usually. You know, grading essays might be on the lower spectrum on your, you know, where your scale is. And so
make a game out of
What
it.
you're looking for.
Make a game
Yeah.
out of it.
And that's
Yes.
how I always used to consult, is like, make a game out of it. You know, like I'd do little dots and fill in the dots when I got 5 minutes or some sort of mile. I mean, break it down into you know, some rewards, or, you know, so that you know that you're making quick progress and you're getting it done, and you can, but something that's your own little game.
That's your own, and it's a game. So
And nobody knows about it, right?
So yes, and I think we can partially pay
Oh.
attention to where, I mean, sorry, Brian, but just as I want to connect to next week, that paying attention to our energy and effort and the dynamic nature of them is one of the things that I really want to introduce and see as I'm approaching synchronicity and serendipity. One of the things that Bill Burnett and Dave Evans have us do is pay attention to our energy and notice when our energy is like, when something lights us up, to pay attention to that. Or when something's working, like the game is working, pay attention to that. So it is like attention and energy is kind of the two interesting words that connect to playing.
Or even when you take a big sigh, pay attention to that. That's your body saying that you need yeah.
So the ultimate game that your students want and that they don't get is the feeling of being heard. So I put here in the chat, when you find the gestalt, the essence of their message that they're trying to convey, and you basically play it back to them in your own words, say, after reading this, I believe this is what you intended to share. You know, so this is your gestalt that you're attempting to give me. So I'm just letting you know as feedback, this is what I got from what you were saying. And then maybe point out, here's where you did it really well. This is where I got that. I got it from this sentence and this sentence. And it really was clear to me that this is what you were doing. And this confused me because it didn't seem in line with this or seem coherent. I'm curious if I missed your intention because of this. So in strengthening your writing, you want the listener to be getting you. And so if you make your game about, I want to give each student a win, that they know that, one, they were heard, that their message was received, and two, this is where they were good. Because we don't hear that in education, that we're good, that we're worthy. So if you can do those two things in every paper, that's a huge gift to your students, but it also gamifies your process of like, I get 5 points when I understand the gestalt of this paper, and I get 5 points when I share with them that, you know, their intrinsic method in a way that has a chance of them feeling good about themselves. There you go. You got 10 points for every paper, and you say that's my minimum standard. It's like, yeah, I can get 12. You get a point for, finding a way to, like, look, I've noticed that you're in the past tense in half and future tense in the second. That might work in fantasy, but, here we want to keep the tense all the way through. Just play with it, but, give yourself a little point for every nuance, but, you minimum 10 points. So
I like that. And it also shows that, your audience, your audience may pick up on different things in different places, right? Saying how, that's great. I like what you wrote on the chat.
Me too. It made it into these notes.
An echo in eternity. Where is it?
An awareness of this moment.
Huh. Very cool.
Yeah. Awesome job, Brian.
That's where meaning is. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thinking about, to kind of check out, I wonder, what do we want to do this next week for ourselves? are we modifying the contract that we have? Are we just staying going? If the goal, broadly speaking, is to pay attention to our attention and pay attention to our energy and to increase the flow of synchronicity or receptivity, or, I mean, at least the goal, if the thematic focus, if the idea is these things, does anybody want to share a kind of a goal that they have, or is it still the same? I know, Mom, you said kind of getting back to the 3 pages instead of 2.5. That's a great one.
I think for me, it's exploring this idea that of connection and taking action on it, finding a way to really move into this, to create a possibility where people can have deeper connection. And I think my weakness, so my hypothesis is that when you have care and connection between two people, you're more likely to change behavior. So what I'm looking at in this course, writing is kind of a conversation with ourselves where we can engage in that back and forth that we get through dialogue, so that we can get ourselves to actually take an action that can improve our lives. And so if the topic is receptivity, experiential, and meaning, then really what I want the dialogue thing for me is if it shifts behavior. Will this reflection get me to take action on something where I'm making a change? So that's kind of what I want to be playing with, is how can dialogue about these topics get me to improve my life through action?
Perfect.
Beautiful. It's a really good one. I really like the emphasis on behavior change and action. I really also like the hypothesis and the framing of that. And I also really like the writing as a conversation with ourselves that we kind of get to have as a way of doing those kind of nurturing relationship and bringing in the universe potentially, and like affirming like, hey, yeah, the universe put me on this boat. Thanks.
Thank you.
So it is like, it kind of expands that notion of, because I do think that's kind of one of the, not just in people talking to each other and having this community of being like, oh, okay, I actually think this relationship feels caring. All right, I'm gonna act. It's like,
yes.
Oh, this relationship feels caring.
Yeah.
All right. Amazing. That actually helped me articulate my goal as well. I want to take this notion that it feels really generative about work as generosity and work as service, and kind of the gift, like kind of giving the gift that keeps on giving, this gift metaphor, and the work play as gift, and where that blends together. And then I want to enter more of the other interpersonal relationships that are coming up. So I want to pay extra attention to the other people and really work on delighting other people and seeing where that leads.
Nice. And receptivity can be transformative too.
Oh yeah.
The ability to listen, and again, to let people know that you're listening is huge.
Right, and you broke up on that, but I think I
Jerry?
understood what you said.
Mm-hmm.
So how long are you on the boat for?
Until Tuesday morning.
Ah,
So
okay. Yes.
I've got a couple more nights.
All right.
So, but I got out here on Thursday, so it's been a little while. It's good.
Sweet.
And I live in a very isolated place. It's beautiful. It has an amazing, lookout. And a falcon comes and visits every once in a while, and I wrangle with rattlesnakes. But it's a little bit lonely because it's so isolated. And being down here, I have to be around people. So, So it's changing my energy by
Leaps
a
and
huge.
bounds. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've been so much more active, you know, walking to breakfast, walking
Right.
back. I've been walking everywhere. So it's been really good.
Don't
So,
have to pay attention for the snakes.
that's true. That's true. Although there are some weird things on the beach that I'm going to have to look up later. They're little gelatin things.
Ooh.
And like I've never seen them before. So it looks like some giant squid monster had like the tips of its tentacles cut off.
Jellyfish
Thousands of
kind of
them.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they're between like that long, and they're about that thick and roundish, but really weird. So
You
I
might
don't
want to
know if
stay
it's
away
a
from them.
new jellyfish or yeah, I'm not gonna walk on them, but
Yeah.
they go right along the edge of the wave line, so they're like literally, you got to really be paying attention. So I'm not walking at the beach at night. Yeah.
Okay. maybe they're not there at night.
Possibly. But
Yeah,
I'm not going to chance it.
Get your flashlight out and check it out.
Yeah, maybe, investigate.
Oh, right. Well, that sounds so nice.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a good vacation. I'm loving it.
All right. Excellent. Yeah, it's definitely being in a vacation state of mind. I still feel like I'm there. I mean, but yet at the same time, I'm like, well, maybe I should get out of it. But I'm like, no.
Get out of the vacation state of mind?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been interested to hear how busy that feels like you are post-retirement. It seems like there's all things to do all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
But does it feel like you're doing those things from a vacation state of mind?
Oh yeah, but yet at the same, I sort of question whether I feel like I need to get in contact with other people that I used to work with, just because I feel like I've left them behind, and they're waiting for me to get in touch with them. But at the same time, I'm like, I wouldn't get in touch with them if I'm on vacation, and I'm on vacation. Right?
I like that you're framing it that way. It makes me happy.
Right. Yeah. So
That's
I haven't gotten in touch with them yet. I can feel when they're thinking, why didn't you get in touch with me? But anyway, once I'm out of that a little bit, but I'm still, yeah. And it is a matter of appreciating it,
Yeah.
Your quote, when Sean was like about 4 or 5, he was just like, driving around. It was just like, this place is pretty cool if you look at it with, like you're on vacation or from a tourist point of view. I mean, just change the way you're looking at it, right?
This place is pretty, I can see myself saying that. This place is pretty cool if you just imagine you're on vacation.
So I think that one element on receptivity is how you perceive things. So your frame of reference.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that's it.
So your frame can be transformative. And I think that gets into our unconscious intention. Is our unconscious has a way of serving up frames.
Right.
And we can make those frames conscious. One of the most common frames that most people have is their belief, a religious belief or a social belief or whatever, and so if you become conscious of how you're seeing the world, then you can shift it
into
with
the
that
love,
shift,
right?
Exactly.
Into wherever.
Exactly.
Right. And that's where you're going to feel the best.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you can choose to keep it the same. Like a lot of people do. They find that, this is where I'm comfortable. I like this frame of reference. Like, okay, more power to you. That's your frame. But I would prefer I had the choice of looking at life through a work frame or a vacation frame. I think I want to shift my vacation frame front and center so that I can find the joy. I can find the fun in everything I do.
Yeah.
Like I'm a TGIM kind of guy. And most
Thank
people
God it's
I know
Monday.
yeah, most
Oh, yeah, okay.
people I know are TGIF,
Oh,
right?
right.
They wait till the end of the work week
Yeah.
to have their little mini week. But
Right.
I want the bulk of my time to be my fun time.
Right.
And that starts on Monday.
Right. Right.
So
That's
Yeah, and I mean, I think so. I just love this idea that our frame of reference can be transformative, or we can like have our perception be more transformative. And in the synchronicity research, they found that the people that believe they're finding all these synchronicities find more. They get so they find it for other people as well. So they just like love finding this information. She calls them super encounterers because they believe wherever they look. I can open up a book and just believe. Oh, wow. Where'd I open up to? Believe. I believe.
that's synchronicity and
Right.
proves the point.
I believe, he says, the soggy clods shall become lovers and lamps. Are we, so soggy clods,
Perfect.
the mud of the
Oh,
earth,
right.
can become lovers and lamps.
Uh-huh.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that is profound.
And it speaks to that feeling of being imperfect. And yet, even though we are imperfect, we can become the most perfect things. We can be examples and we can be connectors. So yeah, that's awesome. And what I've experienced over the course of my life is that my frame stays the same unless I encounter someone I care about. So it is through dialogue that my frame is able to shift. So it's through moments like we're sharing right now that I'm able to shift how I see the world and experience the world. So that's why I think that connection is perhaps one of the most powerful things that can save humanity. That, I mean, we have technology that is, lightning fast and super powerful, but our strategies for dealing with each other are in the dark ages.
Yep.
I mean, we haven't evolved our level of communication and reframing and compassion to the level that I think we need to kind of hold our technological advances in check. I mean,
Very, very important.
Yeah, no, that's the Dalai Lama's quote. We could send a man to the moon, but we have trouble talking to our neighbors. I don't know if you've heard that. He's got a whole
true.
He's got a whole list of that. I'm like, that Dalai Lama, he has a way of putting it. So he says, this is maybe a good place to end. It says, the objects of the world cannot be read as a book is read. They are hieroglyphs, sacred signs that reveal their meanings only to that host who is gracious enough to receive them into the body. The leaf so the sense that we have to be a gracious host to all of these gifts that are being given to us, which is in the heart. I mean, I'm like touching my heart space. This is not like it's like this. And it says the leaf of grass for Whitman is a uniform hieroglyphic, as are the oxen and those soggy clods. Perception in the gifted state is a constant hierophony, so a constant sacred signs. The ducks scared upon the woods reveal their winged purposes. Yeah, wow. Yes, that's so great. So very cool. Mom, did you want to articulate a goal for the next week? Are you just taking it one day at a time?
Yep.
Love that. I love that. That's so helpful. All right, well, I care for you both, and I hope it spurs us to prompt action. I'm going to improve my receptivity this week.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. Have a great week.
We'll see you.
Many blessings.
Many blessings to you both. I'll send the email now.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.